Hello, Sophie here with an update to my lettering tutorial because I got a suggestion in the comments that I knew was going to be a game changer. I just didn't realize how much of a game changer it would be. It involves using layer masking to have the letters be drawn in a way that feels more natural. And you say layer masks, and I am instantly sold. The before was done with just a build modifier on the converted text. It's decent, but for a big title, and especially for this script font, it left a lot to be desired. So for this technique, I would still follow the same steps to add text to my grease pencil scene. So that's basically everything that was covered in the first 10 minutes of that video. So I have my grease pencil object from the tutorial, and I'll just create a new layer above my previous layer. I'll also rename the previous layer to mask. And then I'll go into draw mode, set the stroke placement to 3D cursor. The drawing plane, we haven't changed it, it's still at view. And then I'll look at my scene from the side, and with shift right click, place my 3D cursor close to my camera. Then I can look through my camera again, and I'll mask this new layer to the first layer. And then I just want to create a material that's just a black stroke. And with this material, I'll draw over the letters as if I were drawing them in. So I'm modifying the size of the brush based on the size of the letters. I'm also being mindful that for letters like the G, where parts of the stroke kind of loop onto themselves, that there's not too much bleed from the stroke that I'm drawing into the other strokes, because that would not look very natural being drawn in. And then once I'm happy with it, I can go back to my layers, select my layer mask, and lower the opacity to 0. So I went with the pencil brush, which the strength varies depending on how hard you press if you have a stylus and a tablet. And I really like the look of it. It reminds me of watercolor lettering, which is really exciting. So like I showed in my last tutorial, we can use vertex paint to color the letters now. So I'm using the draw brush with the mode at stroke, and I just locked the mask layer. I mean, it's invisible, it wouldn't really change anything, but just to make sure I'm only coloring my text strokes. A huge advantage that this technique has is that fill materials can only be recolored as a whole, but strokes can have as many different colors as they have vertices, which these strokes have a lot of. And so it's possible to create color gradients within the letters, making the transition of colors even smoother and making the whole thing feel like watercolor, multicolored lettering even more. So I think these colors are just so lovely. So now, if you still want to have an outline like we had for the text in the first video, what you could do, so I'll unlock my mask layer, is to duplicate both layers and then just select your new text layer. And then just in the mask section, remove the first mask layer and add the second mask layer. And then we'll go into edit mode and then select your second mask layer and then go into the drop down, and we can check auto lock inactive layers. So now only this mask layer is unlocked. And then with the shortcut A to select all of the strokes, then go to materials, create a new slot, select the stroke material that was created when you converted the text into grease pencil. And then we can press this 2 to make it an independent copy of that material. So any changes that we make to this material won't affect the first material or any strokes that have that material assigned to them. And then we want to change it so that it's just a stroke. So we can remove the fill option. And then you can assign the selected strokes, which are the strokes of just the new mask layer, to this material with this assign button here. And then if we hide the first text layer, you can see that we just have an outline. And then we have a few options here. We can play around with the blend options to have this border more or less subtle. We can even add a hue saturation modifier to this layer. So you may notice some parts of the letters aren't fully outlined, And that's because some of the strokes that I drew didn't always go past the edges of the letters. And that can be easily modified in sculpt mode with the grab or the push tool. But I don't mind how it looks. I find the broken line art kind of adds to the effect. I'll just hide the outline for now for this quickly. If we add a build modifier, we need to have it influence only the text layer, not the mask. I was like, oh no, what? Ah, so cool. So yes, now we have a few different options for the rim, for the outline. One option that could be really cool is to have the build modifier still only affect this first text layer. And then if we make the second one visible, it's like the letters are being colored in. And I find it looks so cool. Another option to have them both draw in at the same time would be in relations to give both text layers a pass index of 1. And then for our build modifier, change the influence to all layers with a pass index of 1. Then they get drawn in at the same time as their outline, which logically doesn't make a ton of sense, but I still think it looks really cool. And then another option, which would be a bit more involved, would be to repeat the step of drawing the stroke on top of the mask layer, but specifically for the outline. Alright, so a bit tricky for some of the thinner letters there. And so in this case, I think it would definitely help to draw the strokes for both the first text layer and also the text outline. So then you can vertex color them at the same time, giving them the gradients and all the colors. I have not seen this yet. What is this gonna look like? So we still wanted to affect both of them with a pass index of 1, but now we just want to put the keyframes of these two grease pencil layers at least 100 frames apart from one another, because 100 frames is currently the length that the build modifier is set to. So I'm thinking could be cool to have a bit of overlap though. So I'll select the frame of the first text layer and just nudge it forward in the timeline. Ah, that's so cool! And similar to the first tutorial, what I love most about this, as someone who gets very stressed about hand lettering and trying to make letters look nice, I don't need to worry about any of that, and yet I can still have these letters be drawn in and look super sketchy and watercolor. So that's it. That was just a little update. I couldn't not make a video on this as soon as I tried it out for myself. I truly am so grateful for this community, and I really love that in my comments I have both people more on the 3D side and people more on the traditional illustration or even traditional painting side. It's so cool to have all of these different perspectives, and I think just so much amazing stuff happens when we have all kinds of different perspectives, and this is a great example of that. So thank you so much for being here, for all of your support, your feedback. It is so appreciated. So I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye.